I want to say on behalf of our community and the larger community that we are very grateful that you are one. It is such important work. And it's work that we as a congregation have struggled with. And over dinner, Kip was asking about our history as a church, and what came out of that conversation was the reality that this church has really struggled. And actually a number of years ago went through a major split over Open Affirming. And a huge part of the congregation left, and those that stayed were the ones committed to Open and Affirming. And the group became so small that it struggled and struggled and struggled. And you may or may not have noticed the for sale sign in front of our property, that we have become so small that we are going to sell this property with the hope that with the money from the property we'll be able to start a new identity, claim our Open and Affirming reality, and move into a new future. But what it has meant is that there has been pain through the process, there's been loss to this community, and there's been a very deep commitment to the reality of justice for all people, that it's come at a cost. And it's very important for us tonight to offer this space to you. We will probably not be in this space very much longer, but to be able to offer you the hospitality of our hearts, and this space feels extraordinarily important. And Sandy's been a part of this process for a very long time. I don't know if he would like to.
I can give you a little history. We had a pastor who had been with us for 18 years, and in January of 1998 he submitted his resignation. I had gone with him a number of times to a CLMR, which is the annual meeting of the Northern California Nevada Conference of the United Church of Christ. And so I knew our pastor was very much in favor of Open and Affirming. I was the incoming moderator at that time, and by custom, I was supposed to be moderator for 3 years. And our previous pastor, the moderator at that time, and I as assistant moderator had kind of done some groundwork and some thinking that to put the pieces together to become Open and Affirming, well, bring the issue forward and go through the process while I was moderator. Well, our pastor submitted his resignation by letter to all of the congregation, and the perception among, I believe, and those of you who were here when this happened, I believe some members at that point believed the pastor resigned because there was this core who was going, and we did have a member who said, quote unquote, they are going to ram Open and Affirming down your throat. And so we did go through it. It was very painful for me. We had, at the point in time that the past pastor had left and it came time to have an interim pastor, we put the interim pastor in place, and it was time to have a search committee to call a new pastor. We had a meeting scheduled to start the discussions with all of the congregation, and putting our profile together. Who are we? What are we? What are our beliefs? All of who are we and what are we looking for? Well, the week prior to that, if some of you may be familiar with the UCC, Dr. David Jameson, we had the privilege to be an interim minister here. And Dr. Jameson, who was a conference minister emeritus for our conference, he had signed, along with a number of other pastors, UCC pastors, that he would perform at that point in time civil unions, and it was published in the Pacific, our regional newspaper. So two people, two men who were members of the church, approached Dr. Jameson to see if he would perform a service. First thing he did was call me, and we took it to the diaconate for approval to do it. That night, after our meeting on the phone lines must have burned up, because the following Sunday we were supposed to start our meetings to put together our profile, and instead we had to have the most hateful meeting you could ever imagine in the sacred space of a sanctuary of church. Yeah. We brought in an interim pastor who was with us for 2 years, and then we called another pastor, a woman who came, and we beat her up. She was the messenger. She's a good woman. She was, in my opinion, a fabulous pastor, but she became the scapegoat for our pain, our indecision, our inability to work through this, our inability to accept each other within our own congregation. She also resigned after 5 years, and we called Christy as our designated term minister. Now, there were 3 things. Are we viable? I don't remember, because it's been a lot longer than the 3 years she was supposed to be with us. Thank you.
Not about that.
At our annual meeting, January 2008, we took a vote. I don't have our statement with me, to become an open and affirming congregation of the United Church of Christ. I am so thrilled tonight to be able to publicly say my church is open